The next thing I'm going to discuss with you guys is copyright. And I know a lot of you may be interested in this, especially if you are an artist, you create works. When it comes to copyright is basically an original work by an author that's fixed in a tangible form. So basically anything that you create that's artistic or literary work, that is considered a copyright. So a book, a photograph, a painting, musical works, choreography, all that is considered copyright. I know you're probably thinking, okay, I have this artwork that I have created. How do I register it? One thing I do want to say to you, once you create a work, it's different than trademark. With trademark, you have to file with the trademark office in order for you to receive that protection. But once you create something in regards to copyright, you automatically have copyright protection. However, I'm going to discuss it a little further in the presentation. If you want to bring a lawsuit against someone for infringing on your rights, that's why you have to file with the Copyright Office to get the federal protection. So the way that you would register a copyright is, of course, the first step would be to complete the application. You would go to the Copyright Office. So as we talked about trademarks, we talked about that being handled at the USPTO. With the copyrights, it's handled at the Copyright Office. You'd go online, you can file the application online, as well as with the trademark, and you fill out basic information that they ask you, your name, when you created the work, if the work has been published, and then you submit the application. The copyright fees are a little bit different compared to the trademark fees. When it comes to copyright, they vary. They're from $45 to $200, depending on what type of work you're submitting. If you are submitting a group of work, they still do allow you to submit a group of work at once and pay one fee for that. Right now, that's varying between $55 to $85. But it's a good option to have instead of having to go in and individually submit a work. You can submit the work together in a group and also save some money that way. So that's a great option to have. So once you fill out the application, you pay the fee. They kind of do it differently on the copyright website. You fill the application, you pay the fee, then you submit, they call it the deposit of work, which basically is the evidence. So if you are filing a piece of artwork, you will submit that. If you are filing a book, whatever it may be, the manuscript of the book, you will submit that deposit of work. If whatever you are submitting, you feel that you cannot submit it online, you can also mail it to the office. And then you submit the application. With the Copyright Office, it's taking about 2 to 3 months for them to review your application for you to receive a certificate. They do have expedited service where you can get it a lot quicker than that and pay an expedited fee. Something I do want to mention, and I don't think I mentioned it when it came to trademarks, the trademark application from start to finish, that process is about 12 to 18 months. When it comes to copyright work, there are many exceptions where someone can use a work and they don't have to get permission from the author. Because a lot of times if you want to use someone's copywritten work, you want to make sure that you ask them for permission. You don't want to go ahead and use their work because you can get yourself into a lot of trouble. So it's always good to ask them for permission. But there is a doctrine. It's called the Fair Use Doctrine. This doctrine basically allows you to use someone's copywritten work without asking for permission. And there's a 4-pronged test to see, am I actually using this in fair use, or will I have an issue with copyright infringement? The first thing is the purpose and character of the use. How are you using this? Say, for instance, if it's a 30-minute video and you are doing commentary on this 30-minute video, it could be a news clip, whatever it may be. So that's something you need to think about, the purpose and character of how you're using that work. The nature of the work. Are you being more creative in your review of this work? Are you using more imagination as you're reviewing this work? If you're using it for educational purposes as well, many of us, who went to school, a lot of times you'll see your professors may use, different things, whether it be a news clip or whatever it may be. They're able to use that for educational purposes and without getting copyright permission from that person. Something else to think about, the amount being used. I use the example of the 30-minute clip. Are you using 5 minutes of that 30-minute clip? If you're using 5 minutes, I don't see that being an issue with copyright infringement. The last prong is the effect on market value. are you affecting the market value of the original clip? If this person has put out some work and they are being paid for this work, how much are you affecting their market value? Are people now not buying what they're selling or whatever it may be? So that's something to think about when you are using copywritten work, especially in the day and age that we are in, with social media. A lot of times we're taking things from celebrities, or you're doing voiceovers. There's so much that is happening. But with that, if you're doing a voiceover and you're doing some commentary or satire, you are able to do that without asking for permission. There's something else when it comes to exception of copyright work. There's some things that go into something called the public domain, basically saying that it's open to the public for the public to use. So anything that was published prior to 1928 is within the public domain. There are other things that's in the public domain that people think are that should receive copyright protection, but they in fact don't, such as ideas, facts, titles, discoveries. Those are all within the public domain, and people are able to use them when it comes to copyright. Another subject I do want to touch on is derivative works. So a lot of times there'll be a movie that comes out, there'll be part one of the movie. Let's take Fast and Furious. I don't even know what number they're at right now, but there's several series when it comes to Fast and Furious. So the first one was the original work, and then they had Fast and Furious 2, 3, 4, 5. That is considered derivative work, or even when you think about books as well. So basically they're taking a portion of the original work and kind of remaking it. A lot of times with that as well, that is an exception to, in regards to copyright, as far as a copyright protection, copyright infringement, as long as the work is a derivative work. Basically it's based on the main work, and now they kind of remix that work. When it comes to ownership of your work, if you're thinking of an artwork that you created and you're thinking, okay, I created this artwork, how long does the copyright protection actually last with this artwork? Currently, right now, it's the life of the author, so however long you live plus 7 years. So a fairly long time when it comes to copyright protection. If you are doing a joint copyright work, sometimes there's two people that come together and they create something, it's 70 years of the last surviving author. So the life of the author plus 70 years of whoever survives the longest. Basically.
70?
Yeah, 70 years, yeah. So copyright protection is a lot longer than trademark protection. Works that are created prior to 1978 automatically get federal copyright protection. That's something to note as well, because we're going to talk about the importance of you actually filing with the Copyright Office. A lot of times, again, because I stated, once you create a work, you automatically have that copyright protection. However, if you want to file a lawsuit and get damages for someone infringing on your right, you want to be sure that you filed with the Copyright Office, because you will not, that's one of the requirements. In order for you to bring a lawsuit against someone who may be infringing on your work, you actually have to submit your application with the Copyright Office and then use that certificate to bring the lawsuit against the person. So very important. When you own a copyright, there's several things that you can do with it. Even just IP in general, trademarks as well. You can license it out. So say for instance, if you own a trademark or you own a copyright and you want to bring in some more revenue, you can think about it as a way to bring in some revenue. You can license it out to people and basically let them know you have a license to use this work for, X amount of time, or however you want to use this work. You can kind of tailor it to how you are allowing this work to be used, and you are able to get revenue from that person and still be the owner of that work. So that's definitely something to think about. Also, say for instance, a lot of times you'll see people create work for someone, considered a work for hire. I created this work for you, we have this contract in place. There's always that, okay, who owns the work? It's usually the person who asks the person to create it, they are the owner of the work. But it's also important to have a copyright transfer of assignment in place. So they can, if there's an issue that worse who arise, at least we can know, okay, who actually is the proper owner of that. Because a lot of times with the work from hire, it can kind of be a muddy area because it goes into, okay, is this person considered an independent contractor? Are they considered an employee who was hired for this work? So there's a lot of different, I'd say, laws that you kind of have to look through to see, okay, who actually is the owner. Let's look at the full scope of actually what took place and how you hired me. But it's always good to have contracts. I always will reiterate this, have contracts in place, especially if you are hiring someone to create a work for you. And if you want to transfer over your rights of that work to that person, say for instance, if you do create a work for someone, you're like, you know what, that's fine, they can own the copyrights to this. Make sure that you have a copyright transfer assignment in place and that both of you sign. Highly, highly important when it comes to work for hire. In the day and age that we're living in, AI is taking over, guys. AI is everywhere. There was actually a recent court decision where there was an AI generated work. It was actually a visual artwork that was created. And this guy who was an artist actually tried to file the copyright, and it actually was rejected. It was rejected because they said that when they created the copyright laws, they said that it had to be created by a human. So, he was very upset because he said, well, I basically told the AI how to create this visual artwork. I should receive protection for this. And the Copyright Office said, no, you cannot receive protection for this. It was brought to the higher court. So as of right now, AI generated work cannot be copyrighted. As things progress, because as you guys see, AI is literally everywhere. As things progress, could things change? It could change. They could say, you know what? Times are progressing. We're noticing that there's so many different AI software, that artists are using AI now. We may allow for it to receive copyright protection, but as of right now, they cannot receive copyright protection. So when it comes to owning your copyright, owning your trademark, I know you're thinking, okay, you're telling us to file it, with these federal agencies. What's the importance of filing it? Of course, that ownership. When you work hard on something, all of you in here, whether you're a business owner, you like art, whatever it may be, you work hard on something, you want to be sure that it's protected. You want to be sure that no one else can take your hard work. Again, with the day and age that we live, especially with social media, a lot of us are posting on social media, we're posting these different things, and people are just able to grab things. Many of you probably have seen, there's been several lawsuits in regards to copyright infringement, where someone's saying, they created this artwork, and then we have these websites, Shein and all these other different websites, taking this person's artwork, putting it on clothing, and not giving that person credit for it. So it's so important that you file with the Copyright Office, because if an issue does arise, you can file for injunction, you can file for statutory damages, but again, if you do not file with these agencies, you won't be able to get that type of recourse. So it's very important that you file. And also, it takes pride in your work. You work hard for something and you're thinking, okay, what is the return on my investment? Spending this money to get a copyright, spending this money to get a trademark. Well, there's a big return on your investment. This is your hard work, and if something were to happen in the future, at least you are protected. And also, when it comes to trademark, a lot of times you can think that, okay, well, I'm not going to file a trademark. I have this business name, I have this logo, I have this slogan, whatever it may be. I'm not going to file a trademark. Sometimes I've come across clients who say, I'm not going to file a trademark until an issue comes. They're coming to me because there's a fire. Keshia, someone has taken my name. What do I do? Do you have a trademark? I don't have a trademark. That's an issue, because now if someone goes ahead and files that name, we got to spend money. You have to spend money now on rebranding. We have to think of a different strategy. And a lot of times, we consider what we work on as a child to us, as our baby. So you spent all this time and energy in creating this thing. Now someone steals it. Now you have to kind of detach yourself from this brand that you created and think of something else because you didn't put in the proper legal foundation. So I always reiterate, put the proper legal foundation in place, even though you may think, it's an investment, I may not have that much money. There's different ways to do it. I always say, of course, I always suggest hire an attorney, even if it's not me, definitely hire an attorney. But if you cannot, there's resources out there. If you follow me on Instagram, I'm sharing information, what's the difference between an LLC, between a trademark? What's the difference between a trademark, between a copyright? How do you file it? So there is resources, there is information out there to be sure, so you can be sure to set that proper legal foundation. Because at the end of the day, of course, we want everyone to succeed and not to have, these issues where there is a fire, someone has taken your name, or someone has stolen your artwork. And unfortunately, because you didn't file that copyright, it's like you don't really have recourse to that person in order to get some type of statutory damages. So it's very, very important that you do that.